Hey, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, and the man who saw a touchdown happening the second a running back went into motion. It was very frustrating for those of us who didn't know what was going to happen on that play, but Coach did it immediately when he saw it. And that's the reason everybody tunes in to hear Coach, because he has the best analysis, insight of anybody you will ever be able to talk to. And I'm sure he wants me to get on with it instead of introducing him, saying how great he is. He just kind of rolls his eyes and says, let's get to the questions. And he's right. We got a lot of questions about the Alabama game and a lot of questions about Georgia taking on Auburn. The Bulldogs return to Sanford Stadium this weekend, 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have the watch-along show at Coach's house again, so please join us. Coach, we've got a ton of questions right off the bat. I just want to get your thoughts now that you've had a couple days to process this Georgia-Alabama game. You do a great job of giving us the state of the program. What is the state of the program right now?
Yeah, I just think certainly you've got to readjust a little bit, knowing that probably not as good as we thought we were, and definitely not as bad as we played. So you take the tape and coach off of it and show the good things that happened once we got our feet on the ground, but it was a little bit too late for sure. But in spite of that, made the comeback. But some issues that are atypical of Georgia right now are missed tackles, penalties, just a lot of missed assignments. Just the fact we had an interception on a call that was made and the guy didn't catch the call. Those are kind of mistakes that in a big game come back to haunt you, plus the turnovers. We hadn't had any, but we had 4 plus the safety. But the biggest overview is you played a guy who had one of those games of a lifetime. If you look at Kirby Smart's defenses over the years, Johnny Manziel over there 12, 14 years ago, Joe Burrow over there against Nick's team, Joe Burrow against us. You got to have great, stellar quarterback play to make things happen. And this guy was just phenomenal. I mean, any way you look at it, his accuracy, his speed, his play, being able to get them in the right play. And I think maybe I'm guilty of this myself. I wasn't sure what kind of staff they were going to bring to the table from the West Coast, but certainly they did a tremendous job preparing for us, made us adjust our defense to show them what they were in, and then consequently took advantage of it. And that's why I said that I knew that guy was going to have a chance for a touchdown because he had a linebacker on him. But the bottom line for us is we've only played 1/3 of the season. We got some really new faces on our team. We're getting some injured guys back, and it's out there for us. We just got to go out and do it. But you can't refer to what used to do 2 years ago and all that stuff. This is this team. Got its own identity. We got to create it. And certainly you're playing against the Auburn team that is really the poster child for potential, but self-destruction 101. I mean, 14 turnovers. And, as long as you do that, you're going to have a hard time. But if you study their tape and look at their athletes and look at the way they've been in their games that they've played, it's certainly a cause for concern if I'm a coach getting ready to play a team like that. Because everybody just expects, the general people that's going to happen out there Saturday because we're coming back and all that. But, I think Kirby has always been really good about establishing the identity of his team. And at this point, you're probably going to have to maybe cut back some things you thought you could do, maybe add a couple things that maybe give you something different, and understand the situations in the course of a game and how the ebb and flow goes. So big game, and we didn't measure up, but we showed a lot of heart, and we can talk about it to kingdom come. But we just got to understand that maybe we're not quite as good as everybody thought we were going to be, but we're good enough to be right in the mix with anybody.
Yeah, that's kind of – I came away from that game thinking that Georgia is – they're not as good as they were, but they have potential to win it all. I think they're capable of that first half against anybody. That could definitely happen. When that other team plays a perfect game, you're right. Those Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams played out of their minds. They had a perfect game pretty much. Georgia, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. 3 offensive pass interference calls. I mean, that's just unusual. But that second half, Coach, it's like, holy crap, look at this team. That's a championship team. So I left the game, I mean, yeah, disappointed in the loss, but excited about what Georgia's capable of, because they showed me that they could get their heads kicked in the first half, and they're terrible. But then in the second half, I'm like, these guys are world beaters.
Right. And I think this point needs to be made too. You know, defense certainly really bad early, missed tackles, misalignment. But from 12:48 in the second quarter to almost 2 minutes to go in the game, they didn't give up any touchdowns, very few yards, really a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of good play by our defense. And if I'm going to be the eternal optimist and make a statement that probably that you got to understand, Alabama played as good as they could ever play, and we played as bad as we could ever play, and we almost still beat them. So from my standpoint, that's got to be enlightening to our players to understand, let's just get a little more consistency and understand what to do. And we got some tough games coming up, but so does Bama. I mean, they got to play Missouri, you got to play at Tennessee. I mean, the more I see Tennessee, the more I see a top 5 team. Really good defense, big-time quarterback, good receivers, probably as good a back as there is in the league. The only real issue with them is their offensive line, you know, when it's a regular passing down. And then certainly Texas has got plenty of firepower, but their defense leaves a lot to be desired. So every game's going to be a kind of a book within the cover. Each game's going to be different. And let's just enjoy the ride. I mean, we're only 1/3 of the way through, and really, with the playoffs, I mean, you could play 15, 16 games, so we're really on 1/4. So let's get it ready to rock.
I was, after that first half, I'm like, there's no way Georgia's beating Tennessee. There's no way they're beating Texas. Ole Miss is going to kill them. And then saw that Tennessee, Texas, and Ole Miss didn't exactly destroy their competition. And I'm like, this is the worst half of Georgia football since Kirby's first year at Ole Miss. I'm like, then that second half, I'm like, this team can beat everybody. So when we're bringing a special guest, because Wes Howard, who's basically one of our friends over at Bulldog Snacks, is a new sponsor of the show. It's October 1st. We're launching a new program here. And the reason we're having him on, we're going to talk Georgia football and Alabama and Auburn games. But one of the issues that people ask me about after this Alabama game is, what can we do to fix this? Why don't we have a Ryan Williams? Why don't we have a Jeremiah Smith? Why don't we can we get C.J. Wiley? Can we get Aaron Gregory, the 2026 5-star wide receiver? How do you get those guys? And I'm like, well, Georgia needs to be able to compete on the NIL market. And people are like, oh, NIL, I can't write a check. I don't want you to write a check. I want you to listen to Wes Howard. Wes, tell folks what they could do. That's not a change of they don't have to spend any more money, but they could help Georgia football.
No, absolutely, Roddy. And by the way, thank you so much for having us. And we're so excited about this sponsorship. And yeah, that's basically it. So Bulldog Snacks started back in January. And essentially what it is our manufacturing plant. We're based in Atlanta. We're called Ideation Eats. And we've been in the snack game for the last several years. And we had a client last year that said, these granola bars are actually really tasty. Have you ever thought about getting into the NIL space? And so we explored it. Our first call was to the University of Georgia. We met with them in January, where they tasted the products. And flash forward to now, we have a snack line that is branded and officially licensed with partnership with the University of Georgia as Bulldog Snacks. And we've got also a partnership with the Classic City Collective. And that's really the onus of this, is that this is an opportunity for all of us, for Bulldog Nation, to find unique and creative ways to where they can contribute to Georgia's NIL efforts, while also enjoying a tasty snack as well. And really, it's items that you would be buying in the grocery store every day. We've got the bars, which are on the screen. It's a granola bar. It's made of toasted oats and almonds, very low on sugar. And then this is what we've launched this summer, which is the Bulldog cookies. And these are very comparable to, like, as far as size, to the famous Amos, but these are gluten-free. And I can tell you, they're dangerous. I think I ate about 2 packs during the game Saturday night.
No, I'm with you there. So basically, if you buy cookies or you buy granola bars and you want the toasted oats, almonds, and chocolate with just a little bit of protein, get the Bulldog bar. You can order them from bulldogsnacks.com. You guys give a ton of money to Georgia's Classic City Collective. So folks who buy cookies, which is everyone, who buys granola bars, which is most people, you just do the same thing. And I know you can't tell us how much, but I have a good idea the check you wrote. So, and you'll continue to do that. So, but if they don't find them in their stores, what do they need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, Roddy. So our website is live now. It's bulldogsnacks.com, and that's DOG, Bulldog with an O. We also have distribution on campus. So if you go into the bookstore, for next home game on Saturday, and also in the concessions in the stadiums, we're going to have distribution there. So you're able to enjoy that. But the easiest way that you can really contribute to the NIL efforts would be to order the packages on Bulldog Snacks. And that actually leads me to my next point.
I'm asking because this is important, folks. Because go ahead. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so we have a fantastic partnership with the Classic City Collective. Matt and Steven and Patrick have been great, and so we've been trying to think of some unique incentives that we can give our most rabid fan bases, as maybe a way to try out this product in addition to contributing to the efforts of the NIL Collective. So, but what we're going to be offering in October is for every purchase of what we're calling the Fan Pack, which is going to be a mix of our granola bars as well as our mini chocolate chip cookies, automatically qualifies you into a sweepstakes for a chance to attend a UGA football practice later on in the fall. So we're going to be running this throughout October. You can see on our website, just search for the Fan Pack. We'll make sure to communicate.
It's at the very top.
Yeah, to the very top. We'll communicate this to to the fans and the subscribers at UGASports. But the biggest thing is we understand that that there's frustrations coming out of last Saturday, and we see what's going on with the Ohio States and the Ole Misses of the world, right? Where they are all in. The unfortunate part about that is it's not sustainable. So schools like the University of Georgia are looking for opportunities where they can give back to to their fan base, but also looking for for some recurring revenue for for the NIL efforts. And we think that this is that, and we're so excited to support the Classic City and the student athletes and give everybody incentive to try this out. So I would encourage everybody to go to bulldogsnacks.com, research, read about it, read the ingredients, but definitely lean in and invest, because you'll get something back in addition to just a check to the NIL.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, Wes, thanks so much for being on, man. That's
appreciate being on there, Wes. Thanks for helping.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
So, Wes, Coach, a lot of people were looking at the Ryan Williams of the world, the Jalen Milrose. You were talking about Nico at Tennessee, the crazy deal he signed. Georgia doesn't do a whole lot of those big deals up front to get a kid out of high school because they tend to spend more on the guys who are starters, the guys who maybe are going to the NFL, and to get them to come back and stay another year. In other words, I don't want to call it top heavy, but it's production heavy, the way Georgia uses its money. But we got a lot of people say, why doesn't Georgia get a Ryan Williams and, where was Nate Frazier? In other words, whenever there's a loss, it's always who was in and who was not.
Hey, but that's so. I mean, Ryan Williams is a great player, but so is KJ Bolden. I mean, come on, we get our share of those guys. We're not losing them because of NIL. We got the resources, but what he brought out was we got to sustain what we got and find new ways to do it. We're going to get the athletic department getting more involved. We're going to get people like this that get the corporate world. So we're educating people. We're not lacking for NIL, but we've got to keep working on it to understand that it's an ever evolving deal. So
I'm just saying, the question came about is like, whenever there's always second guessing of who was in and who was out, and why didn't the number one thing I'm seeing is a lot of people say, why didn't Nate Frazier get some carries? And I said, look, he's a freshman. He's not ready for this crazy game. Kirby said the same thing yesterday. And there's the idea that you mentioned Georgia changing its offense. People said, look, they don't ask Ryan Williams to block. They just throw it to him. And why aren't we
I mean, it's so. I mean, I'm gonna have a hard time staying on the show on these kind of dumbass things. I mean, hey, I'll do what you want me to, but realistically, Ryan Williams has to block. I mean, watch the tape. He has to do a lot of things, but he made some great plays. But we can, and do you really think if Nate Frazier would have helped us win, that we would have kept him out of the game? I mean, we played the situation, and we had a guy in Cash Jones that knows all the protections. We were throwing the ball. He knows how to run the routes. And that was the situation. I mean, I kept Amos Lawrence out of the game, his second game in college, because I didn't feel like he was ready for it, for that situation against University of Kentucky. That's the coaching part. And I do think everybody deserves an opinion for sure, but I do realize that this guy that's running the show over here has won 42 straight games, and we had a bad game, and we still almost won it. So I agree with you. I want to answer the questions, but about why is somebody not playing is certainly a good question. But Kirby answered it, and I feel like we're going to play the best guys. As far as the edge, we haven't played the edge very good this year, but a lot of reasons for that. Either miscommunication with who's cutting down and who's going out, or guys supporting on the outside, whatever it might be. But it's kind of like somebody talks about something you're around and they hear about it, and it just keeps evolving.
Yeah,
and, we definitely got to play the edge better. We got to tackle better. We got to do everything.
That's one thing I want to ask you about. Was another reason I'm very optimistic about Georgia's future is they missed 15 tackles in that game. They missed 15 against Kentucky, 10 against Tennessee Tech, but they only missed 2 against Clemson. So again, we're talking about how they're capable of playing that first half. They've been bad in the first 3 halves offensively, great defensively. But then the second half, they're also capable of that. So they're capable of only missing 2 tackles. They're also capable of missing 15. Very uncharacteristic of a Kirby Smart team to have that many missed tackles. Also uncharacteristic of a Kirby Smart team to have that many penalties. How do you fix that? Because it's just
every team's got to establish an identity.
Okay.
And we had such a good carryover year to year of guys coming up and understanding what it takes to win and how to avoid losing. But all of a sudden, if you get several guys playing that hadn't been playing, and then you got people trying to make plays that aren't there, and then the pressure of the situation sometimes causes you to make bad decisions that really end up in catastrophes for your team. So I think the biggest thing is we practice tackling the same way we've always practiced it. We practice situations the same way, but how you evolve and react to those really makes a lot of difference. And we didn't react, particularly in the open field. When you've got a defense that's on 4th down that everybody's got a gap or everybody's got an assignment, and then the one that's got the quarterback misses him, you got a touchdown. Or, you know what I'm saying? So team defense is team defense, and offense is the same way. I thought our pass protection was pretty good for the most part, but at the same time, we gave up that 1 sack that was pretty bad. And, Beck had some passes that could have been picks, but at the same time, I saw Aaron Rodgers the other day, couldn't even score a touchdown. I mean, he's the best quarterback in the NFL. So
I'm with you. I thought that a lot of people are banging on Carson Beck, mad at him. I'm like, yeah, he had a bad day. Everyone's allowed to have one. He also had a great day. He did throw the ball 50 times, about a 52% completion rate, but he got you back into that game, and give the offensive line credit. And another reason why people are like, why didn't this guy play? Cash Jones also pass blocks. When you're throwing it 50 times, as James Caraway, one of our subscribers to our YouTube channel, says, like, hey, you throw it 50 times, you're going to bring in a freshman to pass protect for you? Are you nuts? And he's right. So right. I thought I was very impressed with the passing game in the second half, very impressed with the defensive adjustments they made. And I'll sum it up this way before we get into the questions. I like what James said. We turn it over 4 times, 1 safety. I added on to that. More penalties, missed tackles, and you still, like you said, Coach, you're almost beating them. If it's not for 1 bad play here, that you've gone into their stadium and beat them. I tell you this: Alabama fans are like, we got away with one, and they're trying to come up with a new. I like this. Their new narrative is, oh, we let off the gas in the second half. I'm like, oh, that double pass that was letting off the gas. You lying sacks of garbage.
It's easy to say things like that because you want to make it sound like any way you want to, but hey, give them credit. Their preparation and their game plan was brilliant. I really thought they did a tremendous job of scheming us and doing the right things to get the ball to their playmakers. And, right off the bat, we got them 3rd and 7. We jump off sides. We got them stopped.
Oh, yeah.
And
everybody wanted attack downfield after the Kentucky game, attack downfield. You throw it, it's dropped. You throw it again, pass it, offensive pass interference. I'm like, what? If you're third and 7, then 3rd and 2. I'm like, I'd pull my hair out if I had any.
It's just it's a very perplexing situation for our fans because we've created a monster around here, and we got a few. We haven't been able to look as good as we want, but we're going to have to win some games ugly this year. And, we can't talk about what used to be. All you can do, that's one thing I always try to do as a coach. And tell your staff and your support staff and everything, you're not going to be able to trade for any players here until after the season. These are the guys you got to develop them. And your film is very much your what you taught your kids and what you didn't teach them. So we got to do you got to maximize that. And I feel like certainly these next 2 weeks we can build some momentum going into Texas.
I agree with you 100%. We got a lot of questions we want to get to. Thanks to the folks at UGASports for bringing up a lot of them. I want to mention real quick of another new sponsor. This October 1st. They're kind of launching with our guys here. This is Red and Black Sports Water. It's the same thing as our Bulldog bar. It's not a different company completely, though. 2 huge Georgia fans who have been a member of UGASports for 20-plus years. They launched Red and Black Water. It's coming out this week. So if you're at a Golden Pantry on Saturday when you're here for the game, check out the Red and Black Sports Water. It's the only water that supports Georgia football of the Classic City Collective with every bottle sold. So if you're coming in town for the next few home games, start checking out the stores as you head into Athens and hit the store locator and pick up a few cases for your tailgate. Not only does it support the Dogs, but Red and Black Raw Sports Water is sourced from a 23,000-year-old Ice Age aquifer. It's natural minerals and electrolytes give a smooth, refreshing taste. It's not purified tap water like some of the big brands out there that don't support Georgia football. No artificial preservatives or additives. It's made by dogs for dogs. So give a big shout out to them. Also want to share our friends at Academia Brewing Company. That's a great place. If you don't have tickets to the game, swing by Academia Brewing Company. Watch it on the big screen there. They had a ton of people watching the Georgia-Alabama game. They closed down early, last week for the hurricane, but of course they were making some $9 hurricanes out there. They had some good stuff, and they've had it was National Drink a Beer Day, so of course they had that last week. That was huge. A lot of folks out there drinking beer, but it's not only beer; it's fantastic food, and you will be it's a very good place to go when you're like, hey, I'm not sure what we're going to do at our tailgate, or I'm not sure if I have tickets. Swing by Academia Brewing Company. You will be glad that you did so. Hey, Coach, first question is from the DawgVent, is from Claremont Dog, longtime supporter of our site. Says, why can't we tackle this year? And why is Carson struggling with some underthrows? Is he not on the same page as the receivers? So a lot of people ask the same thing, but Claremont did it first. So we're going to let him answer it.
Yeah, tackling is a skill. It's a want to do it. It's being in position. But at the same time, when you're going against elite players, missed tackles happen. I mean, he knows where he's going. You don't. You've got to have help inside out or outside in and maybe gang tackle. But we certainly practice it, and we do all sorts of toughness drills, getting off blocks, all that. So the way you do it is just keep working at it and understanding leverage and angles and how to have aiming points, and getting them on the ground is the biggest thing. You don't have to knock him back, just get him on the ground. So as far as Carson, I've seen this a lot of times with quarterbacks that have a big year, and then the next year you come back and things aren't going as great as they should, what you thought or what everybody expected. And then when you look at he is missing Bowers, he is missing Roseme, he is missing McConkey, and then the two backs that were pretty good, definitely good, both in the pros on the practice team. But these guys knew how to protect, knew how to do everything, and got a whole new backfield as far as guys back there, except for Cash. So, and then receivers, some of them are back that he's played with. But I think, you know so much about the system and you want to do it, and sometimes you press a little bit. Nothing's been real easy for him as far as, consistency. And certainly I think that game has got to get under his crawl a little bit, but I know he'll compete and come back, and playing at home, maybe he'll get in a little better rhythm. I think you look at quarterbacks, and I always tried to give them something to get them started. The other night, we went deep early. Could have been great, but it didn't work. You look back on it, maybe we should have probably gone a little shorter, but I mean, who knows? But I think that's the answer for that.
Yeah. A lot of people give me grief about the fact that I said put Gunner in. I said that in the first half when Carson Beck was struggling, and I wanted a threat of a run. And Carson could come in and give you that change of pace guy. It wasn't like, hey, pull him for the rest of the year, folks.
Well, I mean, it's
called nuance.
It's something's hard to do, pulling quarterback. But I thought Kentucky had a good plan the other day. They felt like they needed some quarterback runs, but they didn't want Vandergrift to run it all the time, so he used another guy and put him in there and did some wildcat. But
what? That's allowed?
But what you got to look at is what our guys, Coach Bobo, Coach Smart, the staff feels like the best chance to win. And if you do pull a quarterback, you're dealing with his psyche there. I mean,
very true.
With here's a guy that we basically told to come. We want him to come back. He got some really good deals, which he deserved, and we got a big commitment to him. And you just don't jerk him around because the defense wasn't playing that great either. We didn't. I think it's certainly something you always consider, but you got to consider the moment, but also the rest of the year. I mean, if we were to continue to not do anything and then had to, just riding the game out, I could see that happening. But the fact that he was really made a good comeback there, I thought.
Yeah. He played like crap the first half. He played like a saint the second half. So and the whole team did. I thought it was very interesting when Kirby Smart went off at halftime. They asked him, basically what's going on. He goes, it's our defense. Our defense has got to get a stop. 4 possessions, 4 touchdowns. And I was like, well, what about the offense? That's in my head. And he's like, our offense is playing fine, but they're not on the field. And it's exactly what you said. The minute we went to break during halftime, I'm like, yeah, they're getting it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Everybody that watches this show, or Georgia fans, we're all disappointed. We'd like to see us do better, but I just know how hard these kids work, how hard they prepare, and they didn't do anything on purpose. I mean, we hit a hot quarterback, and you can look back
on the road.
You can look back on these texts that I sent you, Dane, Kirk Herbstreit, a couple guys, and I said my opinion this game, if Beck plays B or B plus and Milroe doesn't walk on water, we'll win this game. And,
and Beck played D and then A. So
he was on water skis, man. I mean,
and then
I'm not saying I was right or wrong, but
you called it. Hey, you were right. You don't have to have any modesty there. Just you freaking nailed it on Wednesday. So before it happened, you were dead on. And again, I think I've said it. I'll go on the record. I'll say it again. If Georgia plays Alabama again, Georgia wins. I'll put money on it.
I like our psyche in this situation because, like I said, for people just joined us at the first of the show, we played as badly as we could play, and they played out of their minds, and we still almost beat them. So we got to play better, and they can't play that good. So although they might improve, who knows? But who knows who's going to play who? I mean, the way these playoffs are set up and the SEC championship game, you know, Missouri's got a chance to be in an SEC championship game about as good as anybody, and they're not that great this year. But Drinkwitz, man, I don't know what he did for the commissioner, but good Lord,
that's a great schedule. Watchdog wants to know, why wasn't Dan Jackson on the field for the last drive or score?
You mean when they threw the ball over the top on Humphreys?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. On Alabama's last scoring drive.
There's only one play. I mean,
yeah. Well, let's see. He actually says maybe because it wasn't a drive. It was one and done.
I haven't seen the tape exactly. He could have been on the other side away from Bolden, but did he see the 11 players? Was he definitely not out there? But I guess Bolden was the guy on his side. So
yeah.
But Dan Jackson had a good game.
He did. He was all over the place. I think that's why Watchdog was asking. He's like, he cleared the defense, really.
I don't think Dan Jackson would have made that play over the top. He might have tackled the guy, but
that would have helped. J Moob, JMEWB says, if you were coaching following that loss, what would be your game plan, Coach?
What, going forward?
Yeah.
Against Alabama or just going forward?
It just says what would be your game plan. So I'm assuming it would probably be for Auburn, or because you mentioned maybe there's some things that you need to take out and some things you need to add in. Let's answer it that way. Can you think of a couple of things that you might take out, or one or two things you might add in for Georgia going forward?
Well, unquestionably, we got to find a way to get kick started and get some offensive productivity in the first half. I mean, and the way you do that is confine your game plan into a couple of must-run plays that you're going to, even if they stop them, you're going to continue to do it based on the way they've looked on the film, and maybe a little more ETN, even if it's at the expense of maybe not throwing as much. But he definitely showed you what his potential is. And then the other thing I would maybe incorporate is maybe a little more misdirection in our offense, just because everybody's flying and pursuing us so much.
Very fair. Franklin, Tennessee Dog, I think we answered this question. He says, what's the real story on Frazier? He played the first game. Makes no sense. And, I think we covered that one pretty good. Lost Dog, I think we got your question too, but we'll give you a numerical number. He says, Coach, what is your panic meter on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the DawgVent, i.e. the crazy folks at UGASports.com who are on suicide watch after Saturday's night's game?
Well, I would say jump off the ledge back on the elevator, because there's no reason to jump off the ledge. I mean, I feel like we've got the elements of a team that's got to prove it. But we're 3-1, and we got 5 home games coming up, 1 neutral site game against somebody we could beat. So I feel like whether you can say we're a playoff team, that's got to be earned. But I do feel like there's a lot of development, and guys like Frazier are going to continue to get better. Some of these young receivers like Evans are going to help us too. So, and then defensively, you're going to get Robinson. Some of those guys are going to come along, and getting the healthy guys back, like Michael getting 25 plays the other day, should help us. So I feel as good about our team right now as I did before the Alabama game. I wouldn't have felt that good if we'd have gone on and not done what we did the second half.
Yeah. A lot of folks call this your rationale and my rationale a moral victory. It's not a moral victory if you point out obvious.
Oh, bullshit. I'm not into that. I'm pointing out is what we did good and bad. I can't. That was we didn't play good enough. I'm not. All I'm doing is giving you the facts about the way I feel, and these are the things that used to get me in trouble when on my radio show. Yeah, exactly. I got to be. I definitely have a good feeling about the fans and understand why you're talking like this and your concerns. But I do want you to understand that I'm not happy with the way we played. That's for sure.
No, folks, if y'all will join us for the watch along show, you will see Coach does not pull punches. He does not spin. He does not look through rose-colored glasses. He is honest in his assessment. He says what Georgia does right and what they do wrong. Just because he's not demanding everyone be fired and all the starters be benched does not mean we're calling it a moral victory of any sort. So stop that bullshit. It's annoying. You're not and it's performative. You don't care more than everybody else just because you call it a moral victory. So shut the hell up.
Yeah, everybody's entitled to an opinion, but
I know, but it's a stupid one. And I don't like
realistic. It's realistic though to have some concerns about these issues that continue to haunt us. But
we do. But when you point out the facts and they go, "Oh, well, you're just justifying it," I'm like, "That's garbage, Coach. It is."
I'm not justifying anything.
You're not, and that's why I don't put up with it. A dog fan.
If you knew how bad I feel right now and what I went through this morning, you'd be glad that I'm on the show. Maybe I've had to go do a procedure this morning. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, but I'm being as straight up as I can be, and I'm meeting the challenge of hitting this. So asking some more questions, but a moral victory for me is me being on the show today.
See, there you go. I love it. A dog fan says, why did the defense have so much trouble holding run plays around the ends?
Well, we talked about that earlier, but basically your front has to be coordinated with your coverage. By that, if you're, playing a hard man coverage, then you're going to probably be a little bit more geared toward more people on the line of scrimmage, and you got to contain the run with your front. But if you're playing with a lesser front and you've got to have either safety or linebacker support if the end doesn't hold the edge. A couple times the other night, we came down hard with the end, but our linebacker didn't scrape off in the area. And a couple of times our end just basically got hooked. So you got to keep your outside arm free and keep leverage on it. So we've gotten hooked. We had a miscommunication about who had run support one time. And then they just outran us a couple of times. I mean, basically, Milroe jetted around there. So 3 or 4 times is all 4 different situations.
Yeah, and Kirby actually said, because I asked Kirby the same thing, and he said, yeah, exactly what you said. And he said, sometimes it's scheme, sometimes it's performance. And he didn't seem worried at all, but he's like, I thought it was the concern I had, because he had mentioned it halfway through the game, second half. They fixed it. So I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, we really worked a lot of guys outside and had the extra guy. Instead of just counting on one, we had another guy over the top, and really, they didn't try to run inside, which no need to defend the inside if they're not. So we adjusted well and didn't get hurt. Like I said earlier, I mean, for them to not score a touchdown after scoring 4 in the first 17 minutes was pretty good by our defense until that last play. I mean, pretty good for sure.
Yeah, and again,
a couple of times they had the ball on our end of the field on turnovers too. Yeah,
there was some butts puckered in that stadium when Georgia came back and took the lead. And again, instant classic. I love when these two teams play. I've seen people all over the world, all over the nation saying, "Hey, if those two teams meet for the national title game again, it could be the best thing that happens in college football." So I'm fine with that.
I like our chances getting in that game as much or even more than Alabama's myself.
No, I agree 100%. Lots of times when we have the show and we mention EuroPie, we talk about how it's double points Tuesday. And if you order from EuroPie, you get twice as many points on the EuroPie app. And those points build up quickly and you get free pizzas and stuff like that. Well, a lot of people go, well, I don't think there's a EuroPie near me. Go to EuroPie.com and just check out the little map there. And you'll see they have locations all over the place. I mean, from Jacksonville to Alabama to South Carolina, North Carolina, all over. Up in Virginia, and our prayers to the folks who in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, who've just been devastated by this hurricane. When things get back to normal, swing by the EuroPie folks. They'll take great care of you. I know that they're huge members of their community. They support their community. I know they've supported the firefighters, the police force. They're always doing stuff like that to take care of the people in the community. But and if you're not in those areas, see what you can do to help, because I know that the folks who run the EuroPies are absolutely doing the best they can to help out. I also want to mention our friends at Athens Ford. It's October 1st. There are going to be a lot of fantastic car deals at Athens Ford. You need to check them out. They always have great specials. They have really cool deals with financing now. So if you're like, I can't afford one, the interest rates are too high, check out the October deals. Check a lot of great low APR financing for qualified buyers. You can afford a lot more car than you thought you could. And if you go out there, they will help you with the financing. They will help you with the your monthly payment. You're like, hey, this is what I can afford. This is what I can do. They will take care of it. And they're not going to try to add on a bunch of crap that you don't need. So if you're looking for a car dealership with whom you can have trust and faith, Athens Ford is that place. Hey, Coach, next question. Poor Preacher wants to know, what are your thoughts on that final offensive play for Georgia, that interception on the Colby Young? Give us your kind of breakdown of that.
I like the concept. I think formation-wise, the fact that we were on the hash and threw it to the other hash, really counting on extreme arm strength there to get it on the level that it's a jump ball. So maybe have it into the boundary. But I don't know what the thinking was, because I wasn't privy to the game plan. But it certainly was attacking that freshman defensive back who we did a couple plays before, and that was definitely pass interference. We should have had it on the 2-yard line. But hindsight is maybe you got the ball on the 20, you got, the timeouts left, 40-some seconds, maybe just run a conventional offense. But the one thing that I've always felt as a coach, what got you there is usually what's going to get you in, and what's got us there was throwing the ball. So you can always look back and slash your throat about it, but I would say maybe throwing the ball to the field was the biggest mistake on it.
Okay, fair. KD, longtime member of our site, also says, has this question: how big of an advantage was it that DeBoer and their defensive coordinator had a lot of film of Georgia with the same coaches and players, while Kirby, Schumann, and Bobo only had 3 mismatch games of this staff with those players? How much did having Saban ask questions of help? And
well, definitely, I just want to dispel that. I mean, they got every tape that the defensive coordinator had as the head coach at South Alabama, all his film as a defensive coordinator at Indiana, all the stuff that his dad used to do as a defensive coordinator. So we had the same amount of stuff on them that they did us. So that's something that maybe by me saying this guy can understand that. And as far as Saban, I don't know how much Saban talked to him or not, but definitely he's got some coaches on his staff that were retained, that, like Gillespie and some other guys that could talk to him a little bit. But preparation wise, though, I mean, Schumann, Bobo, our analysts and all, we go back, check everybody's blood type, where they're born, all that. I mean, there's nothing left unturned there. So every play that Washington ran the last few years, every defense that Womack ran. So we were just there wasn't any advantage there.
Yeah. Bulldog Ice had a kind of a similar question. He said, do you think Saban gave the coaches some insight on how to attack a Kirby defense?
I mean, somebody probably had to tell Nick that he's a defensive coach. No, he knows how to attack it. But definitely you look back, like we said in the show earlier, some of the things that have been successful against Georgia and Alabama when Kirby were there, just elite quarterback play, sustaining drives, making plays with your feet, scrambling, hitting the unbelievable pass. And they got that. Plus, they had elite wide receiver play. You look at all those LSU receivers and championship game 2019. That's what you got to have.
Yeah, I think that goes into his second question was, can you explain, to us what Alabama did and why it worked? And I think you nailed it. 117 rushing yards for Jalen Milroe, 300+ yards passing.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they did was formation-wise, they really had some looks that made us define what we were in by either motioning or shifting, which everybody has to do. I mean, you can't have but so many checks and all. And that makes it easier for your quarterback to read the defense, to when they know exactly what they're in, and they're going to adjust accordingly. And they really did some good concepts there as far as, and we were talking about it on our show, as far as how they lined up and then got to other things. You notice like several times they would have at least three guys shift from one side to the other side, which really changes the formation strength. And if you have a blitz on and a man coverage, then your guys are going to shift with them and show it. But if you're in zone, they're not going to move much. So, but everybody can do that. It's no question. Why don't they? But the way they did it, just from me as an old coach, I thought they had a real good feel for what their kids could do accordingly. And they didn't make many mistakes. I mean, they didn't drop any passes. They didn't get any holding penalties. They didn't get any blocks in the back. When you're having that kind of run there, 4 straight touchdowns, you got to operate on an efficiency level like that. And so kudos to them.
I think you're 100% right there. I like this question from UGA alum 95. He always has good questions for us. It says, is now the time for UGA to start recruiting the best running QBs, dual threat in the country, since we've shown historically and currently that we have trouble defending them? If the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, we always look at quarterbacks and definitely look at that too. But we got a guy coming in. I hope he reclassifies from Nashville. That kid from 2026 going to be really good. And I like Gunner can do some stuff. Rashada Pulisky. So we always keep our options open there. We recruited Fields. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Recruited Caleb, went after Rashada. They went after Juju Lewis. I mean, it's not like Georgia is against the running quarterbacks, but you got to play with who you get. Here's a good question, or one that a lot of people have been asking coaches about cornerbacks. DW Burnett says, do our coaches teach the quarterbacks to play the man or play the ball? If so, what's the advantage of playing it that way? Seems like our guys are consistently close enough to make a play on the ball if they would just look for it. And you've explained it to me a few times, so I want you to explain it to the masses.
A lot of it has to do with the technique involved in the man coverage. Mm-hmm. Are you playing where you got help over the top, where you're playing outside in, or you playing them where you got them yourself and you force them to outside and you're playing inside technique? And are you playing him on the goal line where you're going to react to his hands up? So you got to play. You got to have good eyes when you're playing man off man, where you're not necessarily pressing. And so you got to read the quarterback a little more. You play the ball, but when you're playing press man, you got to read the quarterback. The receiver and what he's doing with his hands and eyes. So a little bit of both.
Okay. Question from Eddie from Ackworth. He says 8 sacks on the year, 8 sacks on the year, 4 games in, and 0 on Saturday. Is this a concern?
Definitely. I mean, we talk about pressure more than anything, but we didn't put a lot of pressure on that guy the other night, that's for sure. But his ability to run makes that an issue too. But we need to get more guys on the ground. And when you got a chance to do it, definitely something we got to do. Lost yardage plays help you win as much as anything if you can get the sticks on our favor. And we've talked about it since I've been doing this show. Part of our defensive package is to get people where they're in second, third, and long, where we can get our package in there, where they don't have the ability to run our pass, and we just play the pass and rush the pass. It's hard to rush the passer on first and second down when it's a run or pass. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's perfect. At one point, we were noting that they were like maybe 3 of 8 or 9 on third down, but they had like 29 first downs. And Kirby Smart was asked the same thing. Why were you so bad on third down? He said, because we were bad on first and second down. They averaged 3rd and 7. Georgia did 3rd and 7, whereas Alabama was getting a lot on first and second down. They had very short conversions. And
I love those first and second down plays that make first downs. If you're making a lot of first downs and getting in rhythm, we talk about that, then your play calling's a lot easier, and your ability to maybe take a few chances and do things. But you're struggling to make first downs, it's hard to call a play that could not work and put you behind the chains. You know what I'm saying? Like a deep pass or a reverse or something like that. So we got to get more rhythm on offense for sure. And then defense, we got to get them in for his question. We got to get them in to where it's more of a passing situation.
Yeah, and that's why you're not getting sacks when you can't go, like as Coach always says, pin their ears back on third down. That amoeba defense that we've seen.
Right.
Look at Jaguar, the guys standing around, and all of a sudden they shoot out. You don't know who's coming.
Did that against Clemson pretty well.
Yeah. Butch Dog says it's being discussed as a big focal point this past offseason. We didn't create enough turnovers on defense. Hoping we can get a few against this Auburn team who's been giving it away like Halloween candy. And for reference, folks, I want y'all to understand about Auburn before it was like, oh, well, Auburn's terrible. Through 4 games, Auburn has 11. They're minus 11 in turnovers. The next closest team is minus 4. So they've had 7 more than anybody else in the SEC. And then it's 0. Georgia's at 0. Georgia's even on the year in turnovers. But there's some teams
talking about turnover ratio. They've had 14 turnovers, all right.
Yeah, I think they've had 14, but I guess
they've got 14.
The net is minus 11.
They've only had 3 that they created, so it's 11. But here's the thing about that I always felt like in coaching, the principle of, hey, it's got to go the other way. Maybe they won't turn it over. You count on them doing it, but then they come in, so you can't count on them turning it over. The guy's made some dumbass plays. I mean, excuse me. He's a good quarterback, but his decision making, like they're at the end of the game. Of course, I was happy that happened with Oklahoma. All they got to do is punt the ball, and they're out. The game's over. But it's in the fourth quarter, less than 5 minutes to go, and he throws the ball over in a short flat to a Oklahoma linebacker. That the risk and reward was nothing there as far as the reward. The risk was terrible, and won the game for Oklahoma. Really, I mean, Oklahoma couldn't score if they left the field. I mean, Oklahoma's offense was terrible. So he's made some really bad decisions. And, of course, his coach is on his ass too, and there's a lot of public deal there. But you just watch the tape of their receivers and their scheme and all. I mean, they did a good job against us last year with their scheme. That quarterback made a couple of nice runs and really threw the ball pretty effectively. I mean, hey, we got to win in the last 5 or 6 minutes of that game last year. So, but I'm going against what I said. Let's don't get too caught up about last year and all that. But this team is definitely more of a threat offensively, if it's not its own worst enemy, than some of these teams we played. So, very similar to Clemson in a lot of way they play. So, hopefully we can put the quietus on them. And then defensively, they've gone to a different coordinator, brought in the guy from Texas A&M, and do some good pressures and zone blitzes and all. And when your team hasn't been rolling like we need to, then we're going to have to work to get that, okay? So it might not be where, hey, well, Auburn's 2-3, they're turning the ball over, and everybody, hey, you're going to have to go out there and show your man, show that you can do it, man. Show you the man. Do it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And Kirby, he's not talking about Auburn the way he talked about Kentucky, but you know that he said repeatedly, they are not what everybody thinks. And again, that's not coach speak. He knows that turnover. If they fix the turnovers, they could have been 4-0. So
5-0. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's unbelievable to me. They played 5 games at home.
Yeah.
So they've been having all that duress and adversity and hanging in the game because they're at home. But that stuff happens to them on the road. It could be Niagara Falls, hopefully.
Hopefully. Question from W. Knight on YouTube says, how can a team like USF make Alabama look silly? If their QB could hit the side of a barn, they'd have won that game. I have to disagree with the question there a little bit. I don't know that they could have won that game with a
I mean, that really is kind of and during the games that were happening on Saturday, I was really encouraged by a couple of things. How good Kentucky played against Ole Miss and how badly Tulane was beating USF, who went to the last quarter against Alabama. So I thought those things were in our favor, but how wrong was I? So games are hard to compare, but, certainly USF really played them pretty well. I mean, no question about it.
games are, like you said, games are different. Alabama played like they're lights out. They will. I doubt anytime this year against anybody they will have a first half that good.
Yeah, here's the thing about Alabama too with the new staff that I forgot to mention. Excuse me for interrupting, but they had 2 games. Western Kentucky, a lot of turnovers, and then USF. But they went up to Wisconsin and really established themselves a little bit. And the coaches getting a good feel for the players and the players for the new staff. And then they had a week to really look back on what we did good and what we did wrong. But certainly Georgia did that too. But our coaches have been together. These guys got to know each other, how these kids react. I mean, how do they react at halftime when you go in there and talk to them, or all the different things on the road with the coaches and the staff and everything. So the familiarity was increased a little bit with that successful win, and also seeing that, looking at yourself comparing to what you did at Washington and at Alabama, having that week to really look at it. I thought they used that week very well.
I agree 100%. Stick D's, who's always asks questions, says, Coach, do you believe Milroe took compounding hits that slowed him down later in the game?
I don't know. That's definitely something. He definitely looked, he looked like he wasn't as effective, but we had that extra guy on him too. But he definitely is a special player. I mean, I think if you just look at Lamar Jackson, I think this guy can run almost as fast and can throw at least as good. Yeah, and he's going to move up in that draft. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he definitely is. This is kind of something that we talked about earlier. It's a question for you, Roddy. We have Nitro Tuggle, Anthony Evans. How come Coach Smart doesn't play these guys more? Look at Ryan Williams, who's 170 pounds soaking wet, and look at the impact he's had. And Keith, I'll say it this way. Nitro Tuggle, Anthony Evans, they aren't Ryan Williams. And who are you going to pull? You're going to take out Dylan Bell, who's what he does, Colby Young. You're going to take out Arian Smith. Arian Smith is having a stellar year. I know he had to drop
that pass, but I think the reason here is you read it, but this he asks a good question. Is you see the limelight, but I think a couple things. He didn't have a lot of people to beat out like our guys did. I mean,
that's a good point.
The receiver room was, and at the same time, he met the criteria for what they're doing. A little different offense and all that, but the grass always looks greener when people do stuff like that. We got guys that surface, and I think Evans, I talked about earlier in the year, we're going to see him more and more, and we're going to see Nitro. Those guys will come back and do things, but the general tendency is to look at people that aren't in there, like we're talking about Frazier, and compared to the ones that are. But it's definitely been a good show as far as people asking good questions, and I can understand the concern, but I got a lot of faith in Kirby, his staff, and that he's doing what he feels like. Like he said, we don't change anything after a win or a loss. We got the same process as far as developing our team. And I do want you to leave me 1 minute for a good joke. So
we're 58 and a half minutes in. So you have 1 minute and 30 seconds, Coach.
And this joke is apropos because it's about the pessimist. So this guy's and all of us have been back in the old days at the barber shop where you got this barber that knows everything and got all the ideas. His name's Charlie, and this guy sits down. He said, "Hey, Charlie, I'm going to Rome for a trip to Italy." He said, "Hey, you can't go over there. You probably get COVID. There's a lot of people over there from all around the world. You won't be able to do anything. There's a lot of people. That's ridiculous." He said, "Well, but I'm going." He said, "I'm going to go on United Airlines." United Airlines, that's terrible. So they got a bunch of old planes, and you're going to probably be sitting back there and be all scrunched in, and you have a terrible trip. And he said, "Well, I'm going to do it." And he said, "I'm going to stay at the Marriott." The Marriott, hey, every one of those Marriotts over in Rome are terrible. He said, "I've been over there. It's hard to even see out of your room. And they don't have any windows, and the elevators don't work. It's just a terrible place." And he said, what are you going to do? He said, "Well, I'm going to tour, and then I'm going to go to the Vatican." You don't need to go to the Vatican. You can't even see the Pope. It'd be like an ant up there waving to everybody, million people. That's ridiculous. You can't go there. And he said, well, I'm going to do it. So he goes there and he comes back and sits in for his haircut. And Charlie said, well, how was the trip? He said, I can't tell you about it any better than what happened, Charlie. He said, I went on United Airlines, had a brand new plane, and they picked 2 people out of the regular class and let them go to first class as a reward on the first trip on that plane. And I was one of them. My stewardess treated me good. I went over to Marriott. They had refurbished the Marriott. I was able to get a corner room with a really good look at all over Rome, and it was just tremendous. The service was awesome. And then I went to the Vatican, and they picked out 50 people and said you could go inside and tour. And then they picked 10 people out, and they got to go in and actually meet the Pope. And I was the second one. And when I went in there, I went to my knee, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, where did you get that shitty haircut?
That's a good one. Nice setup. I had no idea where that was going.
All right.
Damn, I love it. All right, folks. That's all.
Hang in there. All you dog fans, hang in there. And I appreciate the fact that you definitely have some concerns. And I'm sorry if I was a little short with anybody, but I do feel like we got some concerns, but it's not like we can't take care of them. They might not be as good as we need to be in certain areas, but we always talk about we're all going to go on the same buses, and you put our team together, offense, defense, and kicking, we got a chance to be good enough to win every game we play from now in.
I agree 100%. And you may not want to hear it, but that's a damn good football team that they had a bad night, and I don't see it happening again. So that's my take. All right, folks, we'll see you next week.